Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Tim O'Neill with the Black Evangelical Podcast, coming to you live. Well, it's a podcast, so it's probably not live to you, but bright and early this morning, baby. Hey, I was wanting to talk about a different topic today. It kind of sparked my interest when I was listening to another podcast. This one lady was discussing about gender fluidity with her child. Her child wasn't in the podcast, but her co-podcast hoster was there, and they're touching base about, how she raises her children, and she wants to give them choice, about in regards to gender-neutral issues or items, clothing, its prescribed practices and whatnot. And one of her claims to fame is that, as she would put it, take it what you will. She did this with her daughter, where she allowed her to do multiple things, not be really tied into one uniform standard of what is male, what is female. You could wear dresses, pants. Nothing wrong with pants, nothing wrong with dresses, but you can, all the traditional things that women or little girls do, her little boy or her daughter could do, as well as the little things her boys do. She allowed her daughter to do the same. She turned out, in her words, became a bisexual. Now she's working with her little boy, and she's, completely cool with whether or not he will be homosexual, gay, or pansexual, whatever it is. And I just got interested in the topic because, that's different. Because, parents has a responsibility, parents, guardians, grandmothers, whoever is the designated teacher, instructor, provider, or example of any child has an awesome task of how they teach their children, how you, as a role model, because, children are open books. I have my niece, she's my goddaughter, and my nephew, but my niece is my goddaughter, and she is an open book. Almost everything you do, she repeats, she sees, she understands, she copies, she role plays. So, the question is, is it okay? Is it okay for us to train our children up, in a designated, as we would call, traditional role, or as a gender fluid person? And what long-term effects does it have? Because irregardless of what you say, each style has a long-term effect on that child, how they react or interact with society, and how they train up their children. And as you guys know, with the Black Evangelical, we're always coming from a biblical perspective. We'll talk about politics and everything else and social issues, but we're always coming from a biblical perspective. But before I do, I wanted to read you guys an article that I saw. I think it's found in the, make sure I have it right, the Huffington Post. And it's talking about an actress. Her name is Ruby Rose. And she breaks down to her what it means to be gender fluid. The article was written, I believe, by Emma Gray. And it's talking about Ruby Rose. She's an actress, breaking down what, gender fluidity means to her, because she was raised, I believe, by this. So here we go. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Okay. It says, actress and model Ruby Rose has been grabbing headlines since her debut as an inmate Stella Carlin, forgive me if I pronounce any of this wrong, on Orange is the New Black season 3. That's out on Netflix. And if you know anything about Orange is the New Black, I think it's based off of female experiences in prison, and all prison show. I haven't sat down and watched the entire season. I think I've seen a piece of one episode, and I wasn't too excited about it, so I let it go. But that's what this is talking about. Okay, her character is pretty and I'm going to edit some of the words, is pretty deep, bad. And it turns out, so is the real person behind it. Rose has long been vocal about the rigidity of the gender binary and gender roles, especially as they pertain to her own identity as gender fluid. In an interview with Ellie, the Australian actress explained what gender fluidity means to her. And these are her quotes. Gender fluidity is not really feeling like you're at one end of the spectrum or the other, she said. For the most part, I definitely don't identify as any gender. I'm not a guy. I don't really feel like a woman. But obviously I was born one. So I'm somewhere in the middle, which in my perfect imagination is like having the best of both sexes. I have a lot of characteristics that would normally be present in a guy, and then less that would be present in a woman. But then sometimes I'll put on a skirt like today. And it later reads, ultimately, Rose just wants people to feel empowered to define their own identities and live their lives in a way that feels authentic. The takeaway is that only you know who you were born to be, she told Ellie. And you need to be free, to be that person. Visibility is power, y'all. Get it, Ruby. Okay, so that's one perspective. Only you know who you were to be. Now, we as, if you follow any kind of religious teaching, especially the Bible, we know that that's not true. I think some people probably consider what she said in that article humanistic, and that sounds like it is humanistic. But according to a biblical perspective, if we ever want to figure out what our true nature is, our destiny, who we're designed to be, we need to go back to the Creator. And going specifically when it talks about of training, a commandment that was given to parents by God through his teachers. One of the teachers that he gave us to was through a flawed individual. And like most people in the Bible, most of the people who've written the Bible, like as we would call the prophets, if they're a priest or if they're a king or father of faith, Abraham, most of them are flawed individuals, just like you and me. But that's one reason why they're perfect candidates to teach as an example. And one of the individuals who was super flawed, just by the experiences that we read, it was Solomon. But he wrote his Proverbs. These are wise sayings that people use. That sometimes they'll use them out of context, sometimes they'll use them in context. But one of his main quotes that people like to use when dealing with training children is, I believe it's found in the 22nd proverb. Make sure I have it right. Yeah, the 22nd proverb of verse 6, it says, teach a child to choose the right path. And when he is older, and that pronoun he can be she, that's a and or, because that's talking about children. So when he or she is older, he or she will remain upon it. So I'm going to go back and read it with the original pronoun he. Teach a child to choose the right path. And when he is older, he will remain upon it. So we have a dichotomy, if you would. The Bible believes that there is a right path. Or I'm sorry, let me go back. According to the Bible, there are multiple paths in life. Multiple paths in training, multiple paths in living, multiple paths in dealing with others. And he believes that there is a wrong path and a right path. And that's the same way it is whenever we're training and when we're bringing up children. In God's eyes, there's a right path. In people's eyes, there's another path. As we discussed, I think it's Ruby Rose, and she's just an example. She's not the poster child of all who are bad people. I'm not saying she's a bad person. That's the way her parents raised her up. And now she's interpreting that training as the correct path in her eyesight. Isn't that amazing? She's interpreting that as the correct path. People like to laugh at evangelicals or church people and say, you guys are so closed-minded, don't have any other better ideas. You guys believe yours is the right path. Well, that's how everybody believes in any particular group. You just got to have to let the dust settle. Well, what lasts over time? What's the fruit? What's the production? How's it going to be? Now, when you talk about what she was talking about, like if we talk about gender fluidity, there's no right or wrong. It's interesting. At one end, there's no right or wrong, but there's a correct path to do. Now, I get it. It seems like this style, if you would, has been birthed out of how people have misused women, misabused men, of quote unquote misdiagnosed people. Said this is the way you should be. Like we know about the history of our country, about humanity, how traditionally in nearly every country there are specific roles for women, especially old country. When you go back to whenever countries and nations were first founded, there's specific roles for each individual, each category, each person. If you had to do this, you had to do that. Very rigid. You had to do this, you had to do that. Women did the women work, men did the men work. Well, not everybody fell into those categories because as human beings, most human beings, all things being equal, were born to be a genius of some kind. Most human beings were born to be a genius of some kind. And they were built with these particular tools to operate in that particular task or gift that they were designed to operate in, men and women. But through time, through tradition, through stereotype, through closed-mindedness, they weren't able to tap into certain things because their teachers said, this is how you're supposed to be. Fast forwarding over so many thousands of years, people got tired of it and said, we're liberated. We're tired of this. You don't tell me what to do. I tell me what to do. Okay. So you want me to be a handyman and I'm a dude? Scrap that B. I'm gonna be a master cook, a master chef. Nothing wrong with being a master chef. I'm just using that as an example. I'm gonna be a master chef, and my name is Steven, and matter of fact, I'm gonna wear pantyhose while I do it. Now what are you gonna do now? Bam. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say? I don't know, I just don't. You can do what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? You can raise a kid up to wear pantyhose. Your boy wear pantyhose and paint his toes, put lipstick and eyeliner on his eyes, and dye his hair green and purple, and then have your girl go up and act traditions like a boy, and then wonder what's gonna happen in the future. I know what y'all gonna do. All I know is, for me and my house, we're going to do what God tells us to do. And we're going to follow his path for our children. Hey guys, I'm out here. Want to talk to you a little quick podcast about gender fluid. You got any questions? Go ahead and continue the discussion on our email. We're on blackevangelical@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Black Evangelical on Instagram, and Black Evangelical on Twitter. Let's continue debating the discussion. Let me know what's going on, y'all. Holler at me with me, baby. Peace.